Hello, you're watching America First University, and I'm not gonna lie, TSPMO, TSPMO. I recorded this whole clip I was about to do. Let's fix this. I recorded this whole clip that I was gonna do, right? Excellent commentary, etc. And my mic was muted. Ooh, I want to spread my brains all over the walls. I want to paint a beautiful mosaic, you know. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're just going to enjoy the show because, God allows everything to happen for a reason. We'll take joy and peace in that, and we'll understand maybe God had more for me to say, better things for me to say. Or maybe God said you yapped too much and you got to let the content speak for itself. So we're going to let Nick go off on the topic, and then we'll comment on it after.
When I say what I say about race, which is we have to move beyond grievance and bitterness, if you take that as backpedaling, it shows you really don't understand what we're about. And so, look, we want to be the center. We want to win. We want to endear the entire country to ourselves. We want to build a coalition and rule America eventually. And for that to take shape, we need everybody to be on board, okay? We need it to become undeniable, like that what we're saying is so true and so obviously the vision that it's just like a foregone conclusion. When they say we're all Keynesians now, we're all liberals now. One day we need to say we're all traditionalists now, or groypers or nationalists, whatever shape it will take. And we also need to attract a certain group of people. We need to attract people that are high in openness. We need to attract people that are innovators. We need to attract people that are progressive, that are forward thinking. Who is going to build our society for us? Have you ever thought of that? Who will make the new symphonies? Who will make the new cathedrals? Who will invent the futuristic cities, the new aqueducts, who will write the poetry? Are these people that are going to be grumbling Matt Walsh's, bitching about anti-white racism? No. The people that are going to build our future for us, the people that are going to build our revival civilization, they're going to be people that need to hear a different sort of message, an uplifting message, a message that looks upward, that points upward, an ascendant message. And to enlist those people, to get those people on board, to get buy-in with those people, look, they're of a different nature, a different stock, caliber, whatever you want to say, and they're going to need a different kind of message. So if the message is always going to be grumbly, knuckle-dragging, did you capitalize the W in white? I'm white, I'm pissed off. It's going to be a very narrow appeal. It's going to appeal to a very narrow substrate of people. And honestly, how much mileage are you going to get out of that kind of a crowd? There's a certain crowd that all they want to hear is that, and their mind becomes filled up with that. Their mind becomes filled up with grievances and complaints, and that for them, that's politics. How many of you have any creative solutions to any problems? Can you name one? How many of you have any creative solutions to any problem? A national security problem, a tech problem, a business problem. We all know what we're against. Do you know what we're for? How are we going to make all this work? Do we have any ideas? I'm interested in people that have ideas. I'm interested in people that are thinking about those questions rather than being filled with grievance, resentment, And we need a cadre of political operatives that are going to be ideologically rigorous and aligned. And yeah, you could say those are more grievance-oriented people. We're going to need a lot of very political people, very ruthless people, lawyers, people on political campaigns. We need operators. And yeah, many of them are going to be tough and they're going to be pissed. We're also going to need inventors. We're also going to need scientists. We're also going to need artists. We're going to need to enlist another kind of clientele too. And to have a truly visionary leader, you need someone that can kind of have both. And by both, I don't mean like this and this. I mean, you need to kind of have a vision where you take the grievance and you translate it into a vision. You take the righteous indignation, which we're all feeling. We're all feeling negative. We're all feeling the slow decay, the death of our civilization. It's oppressive. It's an oppressive energy. We all feel the kind of hopelessness that we're out of options, backed into a corner. And the question is, how do you take that sentiment and transmute it? It's like an alchemy. How do you, and not actually, but how do you transform that into a positive vision? How do you take a negative and turn it into a positive? Turn it into a public works program, turn it into a cathedral in the city square. How do you take a problem and turn it into a solution? Take a grievance, a negative, I'm against this, and turn it into I'm for this. You know, and conservatives are very good at telling everybody what they're against. What are they for? You know, the conservatives have turned into, and look, this is tough love. You're not going to want to hear this. But we as a movement have turned into, just like the left, a politics based on resentment only. You see a lot of this on the right wing. What did Ted Kaczynski say, characterize the left wing? He said the left wing is a pathology. It is characterized by feelings of resentment. I feel like there's a phenomenon on the right that is this way too. I watch every Matt Walsh show. It's just resentment. Just resentment. Just chip on the shoulder, thinly veiled anger, impotent fantasies of violence. And, you know, what can you do with this? You know, there needs to be a leader that steps up and says, you know, what's actually a solution? How do we move forward? We can't turn back the clock. We can't undo what has been done. That doesn't mean we can't make changes, but this idea like we're all going to pretend like it's the 30s again. We're all going to pretend like it's the 20s again. The people that we don't like, we have fantasies of violence and we're going to make them shut up. And then what? And then what happens the next day? You know, do we have dreams? Do we have the audacity to dream about a better future? Or do we just have these kind of revenge fantasies where we hurt the people that hurt us in our perception? And don't get me wrong. I mean, we're going to have to put some people in jail. Like, yeah, that part of the dream is that, yes, people will be deported. People will go to jail. But what else do you do on top of that? You know? So we should do things too. You know? And that's my challenge to all of you. So, and like I said, I'm going to lead by example. We will show you the better future. We will show you the vision. We'll show you the way, and we'll endear people to our side. Not just because we make some complaint about Israel, but because eventually we will have the vision. That's the goal. That's how you take it to the next level.
You see, all of this discussion, I decided to just let him play through. It was about 13 minutes, but it all boils down to a few things. And one of the big things is the right wing needs to stop being masturbatory. And what I mean by masturbatory is some of this stuff is already established, right? The left is bad, right? We don't need to, it drives me up a wall when these people are like, blah, blah, the left is bad. Can you believe what the left did? These trans people said, yeah, we already know, right? You're not saying it to them. You're saying it to yourself because you feel good. You like putting these other people down. And you're not wrong. These people are a problem. A lot of this shit is a problem. But this whole, like, just harping over the same issue. We've been talking about some of these issues for 10 years, dude. Like, what's your solution? What's next? It'll be like someone complaining about the black crime rate, right? And they'll be like, "Oh, these blacks are a problem, blah blah blah." You're like, "Well, what do we do about it?" And they go, "I think we should kill all the blacks." You're like, "You're a fucking evil person. You're a psychopath." You know what I mean? Or we're just gonna deport them all. Oh yeah, how? Who are you gonna get to do that? You think you're gonna get ICE to do that? How are you gonna pay these people? Where are you gonna get the money to do that? What country are you gonna send them to? What country is gonna agree to that? You know what I mean? Are these people gonna pick up all their wealth? Who's gonna pay for the shipping? Like, and besides, we have extremely smart, good black people on the right side of history too. Are we just gonna kick them out too? Some of these people have been here for 3, 4 generations, so it's obviously not the solution. And this is the problem with the low IQ people when it comes to the race. Instead of talking about a genuine solution, they just get so masturbatory and they get so resentful, right? And resentment, that's against the Catholic Church. That's against this Nietzschean ressentiment, right? This is not this, you're bad, so I'm good, right? That's not the way we should do things. And I'm going to give a brief side about Nietzschean criticism of Christian morality. I don't agree with him applying it to Christianity, but there is a version of Christianity that this can apply to. The Nietzsche criticized sheepish morality from master morality by saying that the sheepish morality defines itself in opposition to the predator. So the sheep says, because you are bad, I am good. But the predator, the alpha, the master morality, he says, I affirm I am good, and therefore those things that are different from me is bad. Do you see the difference in directionality? And it's not even so much those things opposite to me are bad, but it's more of those things opposite to me. They are just not what they could be. They could be so much more, but they're not. You see how that's driven by love? That's not driven by just this hatred, this scolding. It's a different idea. And we need to be driven by love. We're Catholics. That's what we should be about. You know, the question is this movement about indignation or resentment? We can have righteous anger about things, right? The country's getting fucked up. I know people who've been robbed. I've been threatened and assaulted before by minorities, right? But am I just going to be blah, blah all this time? Or do I want to have indignation about the problem? Indignation against the fact that these people are being driven by demons, by sin, into their situation, that these people have no responsibility because they haven't been held accountable by the legal system, right? They've been treated like children for the last generations. They'd be much more meek if they were put into prison more often, right? And prison's not a bad, it's a good. You are paying off the sentence for the wrong that you did. How is that not a good thing? To reorient yourself towards justice, right? We need to be focused on love. Is the movement just about bitching, or are we a real movement that wants to change the world? You know, this whole era of owning the libs, as I said before, we're past that. We're past the era of Milo Yiannopoulos getting carried into a throne room to talk about how much he loves BBC as a what's it called, gay man who hates the libs, right? And look at me, I'm so flamboyant, I'm all this, right? We're past that. That is low IQ. And it was entertaining when we were kids, right? Watching this, it's in the name Boy Scouts. That's entertaining when you're a kid. That whole, you know, what are these Protestants? They don't have the sola scriptura. It's entertaining when you're a kid. But what are we going to offer? What is the better worldview, right? And here's a criticism towards, I'm Catholic, I'm devout to the Catholic Church, I'm loyal to the Catholic Church, I'm loyal to the Pope. But here's a criticism about Catholics, right? You talk to the average Catholic on the street, you want to criticize Protestants, but I'll talk to a lot of the Protestants that I meet in America, and they'll be like, well, sex before marriage is wrong, this, etc. And they may sin, but they have a proper orientation towards the view. I talk to the average Catholic that I meet, just like nominally Catholic, and these people are like, well, you know, actually, gay marriage isn't that bad, and we should preserve this, and, you know, if you want to have sex outside of marriage, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and Jesus is just a vaguely guy who likes somebody. It's one thing, by the way, and it's not right. You're putting your soul in damnation, but I'm guilty for a lot of sins. I'm guilty for a lot of stuff, too. But it's a different kind of audacity and foolishness to try to argue that the sin is justice. And I see a lot more Catholics arguing the sin is justice than I do among these conservative Christians, right? Or among these Christians in general. And that's a huge problem. We need not to just react, right? If all we can do is offer a criticism or childish solutions, then groypers are not worth being discussed, right? This whole movement should throw itself in the trash. We're idiots, we're fools. But we need not to react, we need to act. We need not to have this passive, which is so gay, by the way, this whole passive, well, they did this, so now I'm going to do this. Our enemies should be saying that. Our political enemies, the opposite side, they should be saying, wow, these right-wing groypers, they propose this amazing intellectual idea and this proposition that blows out of the water everything we've suggested for the country. We need to, how do we respond to this? They should be freaking out, not us freaking out about them. We need to be smart. We need to be so smart, so well spoken. It needs to be so obvious that we are right, that we become the zeitgeist, not just for the blue collar class, right? For whom it might just be enough to be like, well, you know, these minorities on the streets, right? The blue collars, they deal with the minorities, so a lot of times they're aware of the problems of immigration because they live in these poor places. But we need to be so intellectually powerful that even these liberal kids growing up in Martha's Vineyard, in these rich places, going to Yale, going to Princeton, going to Harvard, that when they hear our ideas, they go, wow, that has merit. That makes sense. What an interesting way. How amazing is that? We don't just need to win one side. A true leader wins both. And we have to be honest, right? If you look at the IQ stats, a lot of people on the left, they have higher IQ. The question is, why do they become left if they're higher IQ? Well, there's an argument to be made. They're more open. They score higher on openness for ocean models. But also, I don't think that that's enough, because I've met some of these high IQ leftist people, and you put Groyper ideals, you explain them well, you know their counter arguments, you have a good discussion, and you posit something. You posit a positive vision of what America could be, not based on just what America was, but a future vision, an inclusive vision. And these people on the left, you'll be surprised how close they get to being a full-blown Groyper. We need to be the ones with the reasonable solution. You know, the grievers and the complainers. Who would want to be them? The left doesn't want to be with them, but the right doesn't want to be with them, right? Think about a family member or someone you've met in your life who's just complaining. They have nothing to talk about, nothing to do, left or right. No one likes a complainer. You can't lead while complaining. And you need to be a unitive leader. Take initiative. If you're smart, you need to take initiative, because you need to. And how do you take initiative, right? Learn, read, write. You know, Hegelian, we need to be, you need to learn, you need to read, you need to write. And we need to think about this stuff, right? When you study, it's not enough to just say, we need to go back to the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, as it was written, as our laws were formed, that's what got us to this predicament. We had that system, and it resulted in this. That is the experiment. We saw where it ended up, and we want something better. But who do you trust in the conservative sphere to actually make something better? None of these people are smart. You know, back when I was 20, I realized this back in 2017, 2018, right? Back then when I was a Daily Wire fan, I was like, Ben Shapiro, you know, at the time I liked him, but I was like, Ben Shapiro's not smart enough. Jordan Peterson's kind of smart with psychology, but he's not smart enough for the other things. Who's our Aristotle, right? Candace Owens can't read. Candace Owens can't read. Tucker Carlson's a Fed. Charlie Kirk is regurgitating talking points. Who is our Aristotle? Who's our Plato? Who's our Julius Caesar? Our Napoleon? You need to be that person. How do you become that person? You need to hustle like your life depends upon it. Can't go back to the past. We need to move forward to the future. And how do you figure out if your ideas are good? Discussion, education, reading, and most importantly, you guys need to start writing. When you guys have these idiotic ideals, I really want you to learn the best way to debate is you need to argue against yourself. I feel like a lot of people don't do this. So you're going to come up with a topic, right? Let's say there's a problem in the United States. We'll use the immigration problem. You'd be like, okay, there's a problem in the United States. There's too many immigrants in the country. Okay, so what's the goal? The goal is to not have as many immigrants, to slow down immigration, right? What's the solution to accomplish that goal? Well, maybe we need to build a wall, right? Immigration moratorium. How do you enact an immigration moratorium? Well, you need to have, I don't know if it could be done through executive order, probably, but you would need to have a majority, and you would probably want some of these laws to be passed congressionally so that they can't just be overturned by the next administration. So you would want a majority in these different things in Congress. These are the things you need to think about. You can't just have this, well, we're just going to grab all the blacks and push them somewhere else. We're just going to grab all the Hispanics and the Indians and push them somewhere else. That's not smart. And you leave out some good people, right? So, and I don't mean good people like, oh, these people are smart, merit-based, etc. The country does need to be majority white. We do have to admit that. But there's people who would be minorities who would be okay with protecting that and would be okay with integrating into a country that remains that. And you can still slow down immigration to maybe a trickle so that those people can assimilate over time and enculturate. But there's solutions here, and we need to have serious conversations. It's not enough to just be like, these people bad. We need to have serious talks on this. And yeah, like this whole LARP needs to stop. This whole like democracy bad. So maybe we go back to monarchy and we have a king and we behead our enemies. What are you talking about? Do you know we're in the 21st century? What comes next? Maybe you could bring back monarchy, right? How? How would you even do that? You know the majority of the population doesn't like it, and you know that the majority of the population, especially in America, they have guns. So if you decided to declare yourself a monarch, start engaging in martial law, throwing massive amounts of people in prison, they really could just take up guns and kill you. Like, what is your, like, how do you get the people on board with that? Would they even, yeah, they just love it. No, you sound like an idiot. We need high IQ people. We can't be dealing with this anymore. And that's all. That's the show for today. We need to posit things. We need to be positive. That is positing things for the betterment of the country. And Christ is King. Thank you for watching.